Welcome back. Thanks for stopping by. So today, I was pondering a few things the last couple of weeks. I want to discuss what love really has to do with anything. So I'm going to take you back to 1990. My mom went to glory at that time. And the interesting thing about that was that she left her Bible open to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Now, ordinarily, under circumstances like that, we typically say, I'm too overwhelmed by losing a loved one and looking around, looking at a Bible. But for some reason, I stared at the chapter and wondered what it was that God was trying to say to me during such a difficult time. Why was love sitting on my mom's desk, open for me to consider? That was 1990, 28 years ago, almost 28 years this year. Well, anyway, as I decided to come again and just chat with you, I started thinking, what's the difference between the world's definition of love and God's definition? Per the world, it's all about me, unforgiveness. If I like you one moment, I can love you the next, I can unlove you the next. But God, His love is so not about us. It's so about someone else. It's so forgiving. It's so patient. It's so long-suffering, I guess is the word He would use for patient, but I would say that it doesn't consider yourself first. It's one of those things that makes you really go, well, why is it so important to Him? Why does He really care? So I started thinking, okay, so there are differences between the world and God. Is it about identification with Him? Have you ever thought that the reason why He puts such an emphasis on love is more about identifying if you're a believer with Him than with the world? Well, I started thinking, 1 John chapter 4, verse 8 says, God is love. But if you don't know God, then maybe you don't really know what love is, I thought. I mean, if the world is telling you one thing because you don't really know God, then do we just sort of make it up as we go? Maybe so. And maybe that's the part of love that's so wrong according to the world. Something to ponder, isn't it? So then if God really cares so much about us, would it then equal love your neighbor as yourself mean that you have to love yourself first? I was thinking about that too. Is loving ourselves really the problem in the world today? Honestly, I don't think so. To tell you the truth, I think we love ourselves plenty, to the point of where we might love ourselves a little bit too much. So what do you think it means when He says, love your neighbor as yourself? I don't know, but if I were to unpack this a little bit further, I would say that it's not so much that we need to learn to love ourselves, but maybe that when we give love to others, that the care we show them is equal to the care we show ourselves. Maybe that's where He was coming from. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out because it really made me think, how is it that we're to love others as ourselves? And while we're on that subject, if you don't like somebody, can you just say, I'll love you from a distance? Because it's just easier for me. But then I was kind of thinking about that. When Jesus was walking the earth in the human form, you realize that he was hanging out with sinners and Pharisees and tax collectors. What would be the point of doing that if he really didn't like them? That's interesting to me too. I thought about that and was wondering, wow, Lord, okay. And I believe if you look up Luke chapter 6 and go to verse 27, 28, and then go on down to verse 32, it'll give you some insight. I know it did me. And so I was wondering, so did Christ dislike Saul, who was later Paul and wrote most of the New Testament and was persecuting believers? Did he dislike him so much, or did he tolerate him? And what about Judas? What about Judas, the one that he was breaking bread with, whom he knew was going to turn his back on him and actually sell him out? What about those who were persecuting him and pulling on his beard and putting the crown of thorns on his head and calling him names? And was he on the cross thinking, I can't stand them? Or do you think that Christ was driven by his intense love for everyone? Wow. Is the point that we are to love those who hate us or talk about us or revile us or don't invite us to places or leave us out and make us feel bad? Is the point to say, you know what, I can't stand you and I'm just not going to be around you because it hurts me too much? Because what if Christ did that? Wow. Sorry, but that, wow. What if he didn't carry through? Can you imagine if he carried through on the humanness of what we go through? Like, people hurt us, so we say we don't like, I just want to love you from a distance because it's easier. And if he didn't go to the cross because it would be easier, then where would our hope be? Man. So I think that Christ was driven by something bigger than the human emotion of liking. I don't think that's the issue. And maybe that's why he cares so much about impressing on those that are called by him his own. Maybe that's why the Bible was left for me. That was almost 30 years ago, and I'm still, trust me, I'm still trying to get this. I can barely wrap my mind around this. I'm sorry, I get so emotional about this that it's huge, you know what I'm saying? It's bigger than a 10-minute video. I just want to say that the love that Christ is talking about, I believe, has so little to do with him. And with us. And more to do with him. More to do with his mission. To look down from the cross and say, if they only knew how much I had for them. Not like I can't stand them, but I wished and prayed, Father, that they would get it. Well, anyway, I just wanted to spend some time with you and just kind of meditate on some things like that. What's love really got to do with it? I hope you spend some time until we meet again, just kind of pondering that thought yourself. If you're a believer, you might want to dig a little deeper, because it truly is kind of your calling card to him. If you're not a believer, I invite you to become one. Romans 10:9 and 10. Just confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe with your heart that he died and rose again. Thanks for stopping and chatting with me today. See you next time.